I find it so hilarious that it's 2025 and people still flame gaming for being an antisocial hobby. It's not haha funny, but it's are you freaking serious funny. That argument maybe had some merit in like 2005, but I'm about to make everyone feel old when I say that was 20 years ago, fam. A lot changes in 20 years, especially with the state of our current technology. I seriously wonder if some of these people making these claims have ever even played a game since Pac-Man. We're living through the heart of the male loneliness epidemic, and honestly, gaming may be one of the few communal hobbies that most of us have at this point. So why is it that society harps on it for harboring no-life losers? Are you a victim of the loneliness epidemic and needing some social interactions? Stick around while I explain all of this whilst beating the pants off a gold-ranked team in Marvel Rivals, this game that I play in a completely antisocial environment. I think to understand those accusations, we need to start with the early days of gaming. The home console market blew up in the late 80s, early 90s after the arcade craze swept the nation in the early to mid 80s. Now, like so many other forms of entertainment, you no longer have to go out to the arcade and wait in a line to play your favorite game. You could fire that bad boy up from the comfort of your own home. You could play for however long you wanted and whenever you wanted. It was revolutionary, honestly. This is where those pesky rumors started to surface. As most games at the time were single-player experiences, with the two-player games being a rare but highly sought-after feature in games. Kids, mostly boys, started ditching the sports fields in droves, all in favor of the new video games. There always existed this group of nerdier, not sports-friendly kids, but now their desired outlet was something that kept them confined to a couch. Prior to video games, there was books, competitive card games, role-playing, and all sorts of other nerdier hobbies for these outliers to attach themselves to. But there was one consistent thing about most of these hobbies. Save for reading, of course, they all required some sort of communal interactions, and going out and doing stuff. Video games kept all that in-house and kept it largely secluded to just one person. Save for the few times you had a friend over to kick some butt in your brand new beat-em-up. Just like any modern technology, video games quickly evolved from its humble beginnings into something much larger. The advent of online gaming was on the rise by the early 2000s, but with the launch of the Xbox 360 and PS3, we had officially entered the online era of gaming. It was a great and wonderful thing. You could play full games with groups of strangers and trash talk each other's moms for hours on end. A time when a game felt incomplete if it didn't have some sort of online capabilities. You see, despite what people may think, claim, or say, humans are communal animals. We'd rather exist and strive together as a community because most of us understand that existence is easier that way. What serves to muddy that concept is the oversizing of these communities and your lack of choice with who gets to be a part of the communities and who doesn't. And that's why work and school are mixed with dreaded social interactions. You are unable to handpick the people you spend time with in those instances, and as such, you're forced to deal with people you'd otherwise choose not to interact with. Having a sense of brotherhood is another meaningful thing for men that most of us don't understand or downplay the importance of. Most men are naturally competitive and like to come together as a team of brothers and compete to accomplish a common goal. That's the huge part of the allure for sports with men. But those basic concepts sound pretty familiar, don't they? Guys coming together as a team of brothers to accomplish a goal sounds kind of like any COD lobby, right? Or most any team-based video game at all. It's why any game gets significantly more traffic on their team-based servers than their solo modes. So then, if this sense of brotherhood and competitive desire to accomplish goals as a team are all a natural part of the male experience, why then do we have this male loneliness epidemic? Online gaming exists today as an easy way to connect with like-minded people and achieve those desires right there at the click of a button. I think this unnatural avoidance of a non-familial brotherly bond can be accredited to the modern LGBTQ movements of the 2010s or so. Now, before diving into this, I have to clear the air. I am no way against this community of people, nor am I trying to attack them. But, in all honesty, being gay is a lot more prevalent, mainstream, and exposed now than it ever has been before, especially within these last 15 years or so. As such, most of the heterosexual males are going through great lengths to avoid being perceived as gay. Again, we don't do this out of a hatred for gays. We do this because it's a lot more difficult to have success in relationships of our own if we're always being perceived as gay. So, the modern male will go through great lengths to avoid this misassociation, so much so that we might even plunge ourselves into unnatural loneliness, avoiding what would normally be a good friendship for fear of being perceived as homosexuals. So they plunge themselves into this unnatural state of loneliness, and it usually isn't until years after having sat in this lonely pit and becoming a full bona fide adult that we do start to notice the loneliness. Now, it's no surprise that it's harder to make friends as an adult than it is as a kid or teenager. There tends to be less opportunities for it in adult life, but it tends to be much more difficult for adult males to make friends than for adult women. This is an issue that's been plaguing males long before the internet even existed as well. I was watching a movie from the 80s called Fresh Horses, where a very young Ben Stiller tells a friend that it's much more difficult for a man to find someone that he'd consider a friend when they reach this stage in life. That stage in life that he's referring to would be adulthood, and the point of his argument was to avoid having a falling out over some girl with one of the few friends he has left as an adult. It's wild that rather niche topic from a pretty unpopular film could still be resonating with men today, and probably more so today than it did back then, and we're way more connected now than ever before. So how then? How can gaming serve as a way to solve the male loneliness epidemic? Well, online gaming at its very core is a social pastime, aimed at men's fundamental desires. Online gaming does most of the legwork for us. It breaks down that first layer of mutual interest. If we're both on here playing the same game, then we must have at least one mutual interest at that point, at the very least. From there, just be a decent, untoxic human being, and chances are you can build a community pretty quick. In 2022, I was going through my own little loneliness crisis. I had just accepted a promotion at work, and up until that point, all my adult friendships had come from my coworkers. But being besties with my teammates doesn't exactly fly well when you're a supervisor or leader. Most of the people who work for you don't want to hang out with you, and it'd probably be best if you didn't hang out with them either. As such, I found my friends list had pretty well dried out, and I was looking for any excuse for a social interaction at that point. I just moved into my own home at that point as well, and I lived alone, which I'm mostly totally fine with, but it's nice to have some level of social interactions from time to time. I had built an online community in the golden age of the Xbox 360, but most of those guys had all graduated and moved on to another chapter of their life. A new chapter, which was void of online gaming. As such, I didn't have my normal community of online gamers to connect with either. And given how fickle we all know those communities can be, I'd avoided trying to acquire a whole nother one because of everything that would cause. It's pretty devastating to be gaming with someone for years, only for them to get off one night and then not get back on for the next 12 years. Yeah, those memes hit for real. But 2022 was a bit different for me. The new asymmetrical horror game, The Evil Dead, had just dropped, and I was all too psyched to play it. And play it I did. And because I was addicted to playing it, I would add every person I ran into that had a mic. The result? I built myself another community of gamers and friends that I still talk to some 3 years later. And I think that's a pretty awesome offer of a community that gaming can give us. I added like 14 people while playing that game, and I still talk to at least 9 of them to this day. So not that bad of a drop off either. Even now, with my more modern gaming addiction, Marvel Rivals, I've begun building my own community of buddies there too. Just a few nights ago, I played that game for 8 hours straight, with a team of complete strangers. Strangers at least in the beginning, but after 8 hours of ranked rivals together, nothing was strange. I honestly can't think of any other hobby that can foster that kind of community for men. Not even sports, the coveted holy grail of male community, bonding, and brotherhood, has much of an answer for that. Especially, again, once we get into adulthood. Let's be honest, guys, how many of us are going out and joining sports leagues as full-fledged adults? I'd say far fewer than those of us playing games online. And a lot of those sporty guys are also playing games online too, so it just doubles our numbers. So, in short, people who say gaming is a non-social losers club are just dumb. Is gaming a sedentary hobby that has us dumping hours of our time into things that have no real-world rewards for us? Sure. But for a lot of us, and I think some of us don't even realize this, but for a lot of us out there, that need for brotherhood and social interactions is the real-world satisfaction we get from gaming. Most of us crave different levels of social interactions from this life, and most of us can accomplish that through games. So, don't let society's label of lonely loser be the reason why you avoid gaming, because in doing so, you become a lonely loser. Not because you play video games, but actually because you don't play them. I think online gaming is doing some major heavy lifting right now for the modern male loneliness epidemic, and even though an online community will always be different from an in-person one, an online community will always be better than no community at all. I hope you enjoyed this little video. It's a little different from what I usually do. My books are available on Amazon, links in the bio. If you were to check them out, I'd be forever grateful. I suggest starting with Dusty Little Wastelanders or anything published after that point, as those feature my strongest writing yet. Now go out there and start some changes today, bud.